Most people think they understand Scorpio. They think it's just another intense sign. Passionate, mysterious, maybe a little dramatic. But here's the truth no one tells you. Scorpio doesn't play on the surface. They play underneath it. And by the time you realize what's really going on, it's already too late. Because Scorpio doesn't need to dominate a room to control it. They don't need attention. They don't need validation. They don't even need you to notice them. All they need is time. And that's where things start to get dangerous. Because while everyone else is reacting, talking, revealing themselves without thinking, Scorpio is watching. Quietly, carefully, patiently. And if you've ever felt like someone understood you a little too well, like they saw through things you never said out loud, there's a good chance you were dealing with a Scorpio. They don't just listen to your words. They listen to your pauses. They notice the way your tone shifts when you're nervous. They see the difference between what you say and what you actually feel. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. They don't tell you what they see. They keep it. They store it. They build a mental map of who you are, piece by piece, until they understand you in a way that feels almost unfair. And that's the first layer of Scorpio's power. Not control, not manipulation, understanding. Because once someone truly understands you, they don't need to force anything. They already know where to apply pressure. Now here's where things shift. Scorpio doesn't just observe. They feel, but not in the way most people do. Their emotions aren't light. They aren't casual. They aren't something they can turn on and off. Everything with Scorpio is deep. When they care completely. When they trust with everything they have. When they love, it's not halfway. It's not temporary. It's all in. And for a moment, that can feel incredible. Being seen like that. Being understood like that. Being chosen like that. It's powerful. Almost addictive. But there's another side to that depth. Because when you feel everything that deeply, you don't just love deeply. You get hurt deeply too. And Scorpio doesn't forget pain the way most people do. They don't brush it off. They don't talk it out and move on. They absorb it. They carry it. They let it transform them. And here's where people make a mistake that they don't even realize they're making. They think silence means it's over. They think calm means it didn't matter. They think no reaction means no damage. But with Scorpio, no reaction doesn't mean nothing happened. It means something important just got recorded. And once it's recorded, it doesn't disappear. It becomes part of how they see you, part of how they understand you, and sometimes, part of how they deal with you later. Now let's go deeper. Because this is where Scorpio starts to separate from everyone else. They don't rush. They don't react impulsively. They don't explode the moment something goes wrong. They wait. And most people don't understand the power of that. Because in a world where everyone is reacting instantly, the person who waits controls the timing. And the person who controls the timing controls the outcome. Scorpio understands that better than almost anyone. So while someone else might lash out, argue, expose their emotions in the moment, Scorpio steps back, observes, connects patterns, and asks one silent question. What actually matters here, and what's the best way to handle it? And that's when things start to get uncomfortable. Because when someone isn't reacting emotionally, you can't predict them. You don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what they're thinking. And that uncertainty creates tension. But here's the twist most people never see coming. Scorpio doesn't always act right away. Sometimes they don't act at all. At least not in the way you expect. Because not every response is loud. Not every reaction is visible. Sometimes the most powerful move is a shift in behavior. A change in trust. A quiet decision. And suddenly, access is gone. Energy is gone. Connection is gone. And you don't even realize when it happened. That's how Scorpio protects themselves. Not with chaos. Not with drama. But with precision. Now let's talk about something people love to exaggerate. Revenge. Yes, Scorpio has a reputation for it. But it's not what most people think. It's not emotional outbursts. It's not impulsive retaliation. It's not about causing pain for the sake of it. It's about balance. Correction. Closure, on their terms. If Scorpio feels deeply wronged, they don't always confront you. They don't always argue. They don't always fight. They remember. They learn. And they adjust. And sometimes that adjustment is what people experience as revenge. Not because Scorpio is chasing you, but because they've understood you. And once they understand you, they know exactly where your weaknesses are. And whether they choose to use that knowledge depends entirely on how far things went. Now pause for a second, because this is where things reach another level. Scorpio doesn't just see your strengths. They see your insecurities, the things you hide, the things you avoid, the things you hope no one notices. And they don't discover these things by accident. They notice patterns. They notice contradictions. They notice emotional reactions that don't match the situation. And slowly, quietly, they connect the dots. And once those dots are connected, they don't forget. Which is why dealing with a Scorpio can feel intense, even when nothing obvious is happening. Because there's always something beneath the surface. Something unspoken. Something being processed. Now here's where the energy shifts again. Because for all this intensity, Scorpio is not dependent. They don't need constant attention. They don't need to be surrounded by people. They don't need reassurance every 5 minutes. In fact, they're one of the few who can walk away from everything and still remain strong. Solitude doesn't weaken them. It strengthens them. Time alone gives them clarity. It gives them control. It gives them space to rebuild. And that ability is something most people don't have. Because when you're not afraid to be alone, you're not easy to manipulate. You're not easy to pressure. You're not easy to control. And Scorpio knows that. Now imagine someone who understands people deeply, feels emotions intensely, remembers everything, controls their reactions, doesn't fear isolation, and acts only when the timing is right. That combination is rare, and rare things tend to feel dangerous. But here's the part that changes everything. Scorpio is not just intense. They are transformative. They don't stay the same. They don't repeat the same mistakes forever. They evolve. Every experience changes them. Every betrayal sharpens them. Every loss rebuilds them into something stronger. So the version of Scorpio you knew before might not be the version you're dealing with now. And that unpredictability is what makes them so hard to define. Now we're about to hit something deeper. Because everything you've heard so far still isn't the most powerful thing about Scorpio. The most powerful thing is their ability to control themselves. Not others. Themselves. Their reactions. Their emotions. Their impulses. Because when someone can control themselves, they don't lose power in emotional situations. They don't give away information when they're pressured. They don't make mistakes when things get intense. And that's where Scorpio becomes almost impossible to destabilize. You can challenge them. You can test them. You can even hurt them. But breaking them? That's a different story. Because they don't break the way most people do. They transform. And every time they do, they come back more aware than before. Now imagine being in conflict with someone like that. Someone who doesn't panic. Someone who doesn't react. Someone who doesn't forget. Someone who grows stronger from every setback. That's not chaos. That's control. And control is what people often mistake for danger. Now let's slow this down for a moment. Because there's something important that needs to be understood. Everything that makes Scorpio dangerous is the same thing that makes them incredibly loyal. If you earn their trust, they don't give you half. They don't stay halfway in. They commit. Fully. They protect. They support. They stand by you when others walk away. And they do it without needing recognition. Without needing constant validation. Because for Scorpio, loyalty isn't a performance. It's a decision. And once it's made, it's not easily broken. But that's exactly why betrayal hits so hard. Because when Scorpio chooses you, it's real. And when that reality gets broken, it changes something fundamental inside them. Now we reach the final rise. Because everything we've talked about leads to this one truth. Scorpio doesn't win by being loud. They don't win by being aggressive. They don't win by overpowering people. They win by understanding, by waiting, by choosing the right moment, and by never acting without purpose. So is Scorpio the most dangerous sign? Not in the way people usually imagine. They're not reckless. They're not chaotic. They're not out of control. They are focused, precise, and deeply aware. And sometimes, that's far more powerful than anything loud or obvious. Now think about this. Who would you rather face? Someone who reacts instantly and shows everything they feel? Or someone who says nothing, sees everything, and chooses exactly when to act? That answer is where Scorpio's reputation comes from. And if you've ever experienced that kind of presence, you already know. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever met someone who felt exactly like this? Or maybe you are a Scorpio and you recognize more of yourself in this than you expected. Drop your experience in the comments. And if this made you see Scorpio in a completely different way, hit like, share this with someone who needs to understand it, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Because once you start seeing what's beneath the surface, you realize There's always more.